Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Hope everyone is doing okay this evening. This one is not going to be long. This one is just an update. I have additional stories, I think. I try to hit at least 4 a day. But I know I have a few in the queue that may have pushed to tomorrow. It's like 9 o'clock here. If you guys enjoy the content, if you dig what I'm putting down, and you find yourself here often, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support and help out the content either through Patreon or Super Chats. So while Donald Trump was doing this,
we've made. In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true.
they're laughing at him. Yes, what you're hearing there is laughter. They're laughing at the American president as he addresses the United Nations because what he's saying right there is so utterly ridiculous. At the same time, while Donald Trump is humiliating America, the European Union, Canada, the European Union, China, and Russia came up with a joint agreement with Iran to essentially circumvent U.S. sanctions by creating a secondary payment mechanism that would allow payments to go to Iran. As the president chest thumps about how awesome and amazing things are and how great and powerful he's made America and America first, what you're seeing is simultaneously a diminishing of the president, and not just of the president, but American influence around the globe. That didn't come overnight. That came because of him. You may say that there might have been a lot of jump with the sharks, but pulling out of the Iran deal, especially when the rest of the world was against it, created a mechanism by which those nations had to, almost compelled to, just by the dignity of being a nation in and of itself, and no one wanting to see themselves as being a vassal state when they wake up in the morning, to do something about the belligerence of America. And that's what they've done. Take a look at this. There's a few sites that I put at the bottom, but because it took a few to explain this, because this is a fascinating story that not many people are talking about. This mechanism and payment structure that they've created that would allow Iran to get payments, any other country can use that mechanism to pay Iran also. It's a way of trying to bypass American sanctions. Not every country, or not, let's say not everyone is not necessarily going to take advantage of this. I've been reading articles saying that India is not necessarily going to take the advantage because it's concerned about the sanctions and it has a trade imbalance and that type of stuff. But for all intents and purposes, they are trying to protect their companies. Take a look at this. The EU, Iran agree on special payment system to skirt U.S. sanctions, or new payment system to skirt U.S. sanctions. Right here. In practical terms, this will mean that the European Union member states will set up a legal entity to facilitate legitimate financial transactions with Iran, and this would allow European companies to continue to trade with Iran in accordance with European law. And this could be open to other partners in the world, she told reporters after the closed-door meeting. The European Union, along with Russia and China, said in the joint statement that the so-called special purpose vehicle will assist and reassure economic operations pursuing legitimate business with Iran. Understand why they're doing this. The whole point of the Iran deal was to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon by creating certain incentives that Iran would say, okay, these incentives are set in a way that we are better off taking this than not. Carrot, stick. Whether I agree with it or not is irrelevant. Essentially, that's what was taking place. Now, the deal itself, everyone else says this deal was great, and everyone else says Iran was abiding by the terms of the deal, which is why all of these other signatories to the deal stayed there. The United States took his ball and went home. When the other countries saw the United States as being an unstable actor, they took issue with it and they tried to work around the United States. They wanted to sweeten this deal enough where Iran will stay at the table and where Iran could still see the financial benefits that would entice it to not take another step of trying to create a nuclear weapon. Now, that said, from a logical standpoint, if somebody's sitting on the moon, if I was looking at these countries as being just countries without any bass or anything else, just looking at the standpoint of what we consider to be fairness, any country in their right mind in a hostile territory, knowing that multiple other hostile entities, meaning the United States, Israel, and the other neighbors in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, wants its head, and knowing that it wants its head, and knowing that Israel has a nuclear weapon and the United States has a nuclear weapon, it would be insane not to have a nuclear weapon. The deal itself was this kind of stopgap, and it was a stopgap that everybody has said was working. We took our ball and went home, and the other nations needed to do something about it. So that's where we are with this. Again, this one is not all that long. Let's see. There's some of this dealing with the payment systems. Getting to this thing of Donald Trump potentially sanctioning the payment systems and everything else, the SWIFT payment system. We haven't got to that point yet. We're still dealing with this point. We'll get to that point. We'll talk about it if we get to that. I don't want this video to be too long. This is just kind of a heads up on what was taking place revolving this. So, right here, Rob Illinois. It's not a big deal. I don't know why you're painting this as if it is. The only problem with this is neoliberals don't like being able to have total control of the financial system. Are you serious? I suggest you talk to somebody over Iran about what's taking place in Iran based on what the effects the sanctions are having. I think they will massively disagree with you. Just saying. It's easy to say that when you have all access to your needs. They're in a different situation, not to mention with the specter of potential strikes and military action. It is a big deal, especially for the people involved. All right, I will end this here. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. And of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks all.